Welcome to today's forum. Today we have the counselors from Ward 3, Ward 4, and Ward 5 here today with us. This is another in our ongoing series of fora for the Biddeford City Council and mayoral elections. And today we are pleased to have 4 candidates as well as 3 students. Our format is to have opening statements and then a series of questions for which the candidates will have a timed answer. They'll have a chance to respond to the other candidates, and then we will close with the closing remark. We're going to begin. First of all, my name is Sam McReynolds, and I am from the University of New England. I am the academic coordinator for the Office of Citizenship and Civic Engagement and a professor of sociology. We're going to begin by having our candidates introduce themselves, and then we'll hear from our student panel. Please.
Hi, I'm Carol Beaujolais, and I'm running for Ward 5.
I'm Bob Mills. I'm running for Ward 5 for re-election to City Council. I've been on the council for 3 terms now and seeking support for another term.
I'm Brad Cody. I'm running for re-election in Ward 3 unopposed.
My name is Bob Quattrone, Jr. I am running for City Council Ward 4. Grew up in Biddeford, went to Biddeford High School, University of Southern Maine. Lived basically my entire life in Biddeford, either in Ward 4 or Ward 3.
Hello, I'm Dominic DeChambeault, age 29, lifelong resident of Biddeford, running for Ward 4 City Council seat. Some of you may know my mother, Susan DeChambeault, former Ward 4 City Councilor. I'm running on a premise of Biddeford pride, and I really look forward to serving the people of Ward 4.
Thank you, candidates. Danny?
I'm Danny. I'm a senior at UNE, and I'm a secondary education and history major, and I'm actually locally from Biddeford.
My name is Abby Donegan. I'm from Fremont, New Hampshire. I'm a sophomore at UNE, majoring in medical biology and minoring in psychology.
My name is Sam Casey. I'm from Cape Elizabeth, Maine. I'm a senior at UNE, and I'm a political science major.
Thank you very much, and welcome, students. We're going to begin with you, madam, and let you have the first opening statement. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm 57 years old. I'm a retired LPN. I've worked in the Southern Maine area in the area nursing homes. I'm originally from Ohio. I've been up here since 1978. I've seen a lot of changes in Biddeford, some good, some bad, and I think right now we need some good changes to help make Biddeford rise way above the falls and make it one of the most unique New England towns on the East Coast, and which I know we can do. We can bring the business in to Biddeford, and we can make our community a great community like it used to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Mills. I'm the sitting city councilor for Ward 5. I've been there since 2007. I really enjoy serving the community. I've been doing it before I was even on the council, and volunteer status with Stone Soup Food Pantry and different avenues. I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing, the students over here. I was a political science major when I was in college, and I loved it. And you know, I'm sitting here today because you know, I felt like there were so many people telling me that if you sit back in the audience, or you sit back at home yelling at the TV going, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Well, the only way you can make changes is by getting involved in city government, local government, and national government. And I chose to do that. I mean, people asked me to do it, and that's why I'm here today. I really have the passion for the city of Biddeford. When I've been in this ward council seat for 4 or 6 years now, and when you sit as a ward councilor, your vision is for the entire city, and you have to be a visionary, and I see myself as being that, and I really enjoy the work that we have done since I've been on the council, and I foresee more positive results going forward, and I would really appreciate everyone's support in the November election, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Last term, when I was a first-time city councilor, never been involved with politics before, so it's kind of a learning curve. But really, one thing that I'm stressing to folks this go-around is I'm not going to make any sort of fancy political promises. What I've learned is that there's 9 different opinions on the council because there's 9 different members. So it's kind of hard to say I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, because it really is dependent on the rest of the council as well. So The one thing that I am, or I guess the kind of 3 tenets that I'm promising, one, that I'm going to, always vote in a way that best represents the ward I represent, Ward 3. Number 2, that I'm always open for feedback, so people can email me, message me on Facebook, give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to get back to them. And then 3, I will return any communication within 24 hours. So if someone calls me, you're not going to wait 2 weeks to hear back. I'm going to get back to you within a day or so. So that's what I'm promising to folks this go around. I think my record speaks for itself. I always look at both sides of the issue, so I can kind of really just planning to kind of keep doing things the way that I've been doing. Thanks.
Reason why I'm running for City Council in Ward 4 is Biddeford has been a big part of mine and my wife's and both of our families' family. So my wife and I, we've worked almost exclusively in Biddeford Saco area. We've volunteered a lot of our time to the La Kermesse Festival. And I kind of felt that it was time for me to give back. I saw the gratification that my wife got by volunteering her time, and I wanted that feeling. I wanted to give back to Biddeford and to my neighbors and to everyone else in my ward. Everyone has been so generous to us in our ward, whether it's my neighbor who just, without even asking her, she watches our house, or the people down the street that just are just so friendly to us. So in talking to them, I always got a common theme, and that was they felt as though in the past, 2-4 years in city government, they didn't really get a say. So I thought that, like Bob said, that you can't complain about something unless you're willing to do something. That's where I step in, and I'd like to kind of be the voice for my ward. So.
As I said, my campaign slogan is Biddeford Proud. And the meaning behind that is growing up in Biddeford, living in Biddeford my whole life. I do honestly have a tremendous sense of community pride for where I've come from. I approach the political arena open-minded and willing to listen. I believe in a civil and reasonable approach towards things. And I honestly believe that we're headed in the right direction. And I like carrying the torch for the younger community. It's quite inspiring to hear from former schoolmates from Biddeford High School that support me. I have many friends and family members that have been supportive, and I honestly do appreciate it. Also, let me thank the people at Biddeford Public Access and the University of New England for this opportunity to share my thoughts, ideas with you.
All right, thank you very much, candidates. We'll begin our questioning. Danny, would you ask us the first question?
First question, we'll start with Mr. Mills. State support for Maine's community has gone down and the mill rate has increased as a result. What should Biddeford do to stabilize the tax rate? Should it cut services, expand the tax base, or both? What should the city cut and how can it expand the tax base?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that question. It's a very interesting question. It's been unfortunate. We have seen a dramatic decrease in the state funding over the 3 terms that I've been on the council. And this last term has been extremely difficult, this last year. As you know, we're sitting right now in a government shutdown, and that's federal level. It's going to trickle down to the state and local level as well. And it's unfortunate that our mill rate, our tax rate has gone up over the last budget cycle. I have always wanted to see a 1% to 2% tax increase over every year, even in the good times. So that way, when there was a bad year, as in last year and the year before, we could have, the tax increase could have been minimal at the very least. And we have put out feelers to the community as a whole as to what services that people would like to see cut. And there hasn't been a dramatic, resounding effort from folks to let us know what services they want cut. Instead, they want more services, and more services cost money. And it's very difficult to balance out when we don't have the revenues coming in that we used to, because you can go down any street in my ward and Carol's ward, our ward together, anybody's ward, and the entire city, you can see a for sale sign. Well, when there's for sale sign there, the revenue's not coming in. And that's property taxes. And I think the way we can to decrease the impact that we've been seeing is to expand our tax base. And we need to have a more valiant effort at recruiting more businesses and more development in our downtown. I myself would like to see a civic center come to downtown in the former Merck spot. In 1 year's time, I've looked at what Portland Convention Center has brought. In a simple garden show, they had one garden show, they had over $1 million in impacting surrounding revenue that hit every one of those businesses that are around there, from the hotels to the restaurants to everything. That's $1 million for a weekend garden show. And that, I think, can really, I know it can really increase our tax base. And that can reduce the revenues. And you know, maybe we can recruit the Portland Pirates to come to Biddeford and become the Biddeford Pirates instead of the Lewiston Pirates that they are now. But I really think that by increasing our tax base, by having more development in downtown, more development throughout our community, and being more open to the things that are going on in the city, will really reduce the tax impact that we've been seeing over the last, I have to say, 6 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cody?
Thank you. Like Councilor Mills was saying, there is no real easy answer, because you know, the equation doesn't work in the fact that people want more services but want to pay less taxes. So I think it really is a multifaceted approach. I think we need to start looking at cutting services, but also expanding the tax base as well. The reasoning for that is we have to figure out what people want for city services, what's being used. If something isn't being used by a lot of people, then maybe we could look at trying to cut it. I know this last budget cycle, I had proposed cutting a few positions out of the budget to try to help there. And nobody likes layoffs, but we need to figure out some sort of balance so that we're not seeing a 6 to 7% increase like we have the last couple years in the council. Also, like Bob mentioned about expanding the tax base, trying to encourage development. And everyone mentions downtown, but it's not just downtown, it's throughout Biddeford. And trying to make sure, because the downtown, there's a lot of focus on the downtown, which is great, but I think there's a lot of other aspects and areas of Biddeford that don't get that same focus, that there are other opportunities for development there as well. So I think you have to look at both sides of it. You have to look at trying to do what you can to control the spending we have now, but also looking at expanding the tax base and trying to find new ways to earn revenues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quattrone?
Sure. I don't think that we need to increase taxes. I think the citizens in our town have taken it on the chin for far too long, and in the past several years, property taxes have gone up about 27%, while inflation's been 15% in that same time period, and wages have gone up about 11%. So we can't keep going at that rate. That's just, it's going to break the backs of the citizens. I think we need to expand our tax base by becoming more business friendly to outside industry or services or anything like that. Have them come into Biddeford, make it worth their while, let them take care of the revenue that should be brought to this town. Some of the feedback that I've gotten is that, you know, I've heard people say that, well, you know, your property tax are only going up $200. Well, $200 to the average household, that could be 2 weeks worth of groceries, a quarter tank of heating oil. It's just $200 to one is different to another. So yeah, again, I can't state enough how we should not be raising taxes on citizens again. So another issue is seniors who have fixed incomes. Their taxes, they're coming to the point, I've gotten quite a few, you know, some of the houses that I visited, they said, what am I supposed to do? My income stays the same. I have to choose between food, medications, or property taxes. Some people may have to leave their homes after 60 years of living there, so we need to expand the tax base, probably keep services the same, or even cut some, because if we're asking the citizens to tighten their belts, maybe we as a city should as well.
Thank you. And Ms. Joly.
Yes, we do have to control the spending that's going on in Biddeford. We should put really a cap on the spending that's going on in Biddeford for some of the things that they have obtained this year. I would expand the base tax rate, but I would make it affordable for everybody. We have enough resources at our fingertips through the computers to help us get through this. We can tap into other cities to see how they transformed their cities when they were facing bankruptcy. There were a lot of small towns that the families of the cities got together and they bought the city. I think, I don't know what the answer will be, but I know we do have to cut the spending for some of the things that were purchased that, did we really need to buy it? Did we have to have another bus, another truck for the City Works Department when you got 5 trucks here that can still run? People see that and they've asked me, why is the city still spending? I was like, I don't know. I did write a letter to the Journal, is when it was brought up about with the garage. How can you build something when you have no money? And this is all we've been hearing, the citizens have been hearing. We have no money. We've got the money, we just got to be very creative at how we're going to get that money and get it working for us. And we can do it. We can get businesses in. We need to help the businesses that are already established and that have been here for 30 years to help them stay in business and help another business grow from them. Thank you.
Thank you.
The train of thought here implies that things will continue as is, without change. While I cannot predict what will happen in the future, the role of this council should be to aggressively search other avenues and continue to seek cost-saving measures with the existing infrastructure. Cutting services is always going to be an option. And while it is an option, it's not one that I'm open to entertain so quickly, as it does mean losing jobs. I believe that this is not an effort that can be taken by just one councilor solely. I believe that it has to be a shared vision by the council. And I'm always open to listening to innovative ideas and thoughts.
Mr. Mills, would you like to respond to any of the other candidates' answers?
No, I think it's part of being on the city council. I enjoy listening to the other comments that people make, because that allows me to look at things from a different avenue. And it's always interesting to see how folks look at how we can cut the taxes. And I have a pretty strong voting record of not supporting buying public works vehicles and things like that. And I think it's important, as Carol had mentioned, that we look at ways that we can streamline our government. And it's very important that we've done it a lot on the council since I've been on, but sometimes things still happen that need to happen, when there's an emergency that's in place. But I really appreciate the answers that folks have said, and I support what Carol has said as well.
Thank you. Mr. COTE.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing I guess to kind of give a little example of this. When I ran last time, 2 years ago, I was going around to people and saying, I'm going to take a hard look at the budget. I'm going to cut out all the fat. I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to trim that down. And then when I actually started crunching the numbers, when we get the budget binder, and it's about this thick. And so I read through the entire binder through both budget cycles, and I just highlight things that seem strange or don't seem to make a lot of sense in terms of expenses. And I kind of grill folks, unfortunately, a little bit when we do the budget meetings. But what I learned, and it's a valuable lesson to learn, is that people think that there's tons of fat in the budget, that there's all this, waste and pork that's out there, and that's not really the case. There are spots where you can cut where there's a little fluff here or there, but there's not tons of stuff that you can cut without, in terms of fat, without cutting services. And I think that's the thing that people need to realize is that people don't want their taxes to go up, and that's fine, but if you don't want your taxes to go up, everything goes up in cost every year due to inflation. So if you don't want your taxes to go up or you want a flat rate, then something's got to give, and usually that's with services or positions. So again, like I mentioned before, it's really just looking at how can we keep our budget the way it is in terms of services, and can we trim some services that may not be used by a ton of folks, and then also development side of it as well.
Thank you. Mr. Cotrone?
Yeah, I would have to say that I agree with these guys here. It's when you talk about cutting services, it's easy to say, 3 public works jobs should go, but when you boil down to it, there's a name and a face to that position. So it's easy to say to do it, but actually doing it's a lot harder. Who wants to tell, Joe Smith, hey, we need to cut something, you're gone, buddy. You're a hard worker, but we can't use you right now. You're low on the totem pole. So it's easier said than done to manipulate that budget and to trim the fat. So cutting the services, I think, is a lot harder, in my opinion. I haven't been on the council like these guys, but I think you need to expand the tax base more than to trim the fat, I guess. And maybe, run the government instead of like a bureaucracy, run it like a corporation or a business. That's all I have.
Thank you. And Ms. Joly?
I agree with the gentleman before me, but I think we can get creative with the money. I've seen where places do get creative. Instead of working a straight 40-hour week, that they change the hours differently so everyone can still have a piece of the cake and not have the hardships of losing their job. I think if you start looking outside the box, that we can do this and we can survive this.
Thank you.
All right. Our next question is regarding infrastructure, and we're going to start with Mr. Cody. What are the major infrastructural problems in Biddeford, and what should the city do to correct the problems in the infrastructure?
Good question. This is one that's been coming up when I talk to people a lot recently. Major thing is the roads. If you drive on the roads, it's probably be a good thing to invest in some industrial grade shocks and struts because of the bumps and the potholes and things. That's being on the city council is not something I'm proud of. It's actually embarrassing because people drive through the city and the roads are in tough shape. The bell tower or the clock tower on top of City Hall has been needing repair for a long time. It's going to get to a point where chunks of that are going to start falling on people, and we can't have that. There's a ton of infrastructure, and part of the problem is over the last 6 to 10 years, to try to keep voters happy, they've had a zero or a very minimal tax increase. Well, you can't afford to replace and fix things if you don't increase taxes or if you don't find some alternate way of income. So it's really a struggle to try to find the money to do that. And as I've learned in the last couple years, bonding isn't really something that is as successful or folks are afraid of. But one thing about the way that the interest rates are set up now is that the interest rates are at a low rate enough where maybe it makes sense to start looking at doing a paving bond. And it's something that we've brought up in the last couple years, and it hasn't really found a lot of success. But again, things cost money. And so if people want the roads to be fixed and things, I mean, it's either laying people off and taking that extra money and putting it toward the roads or raising taxes. So it needs to be some sort of a balance. So it's really trying to figure out what can we do to help make the roads of better quality. And I think really the first thing we should be looking at is bonding.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cotrone?
Okay. I think the three major infrastructural problems we have currently are roads, the clock tower, and I would say probably the roof at the Ross Center or the community center in downtown Biddeford. There are some advantages of taking care of your infrastructural problems before they get too bad. It's cheaper to fix, if you catch them early than if you catch them, several years down the road. Some advantages of taking care of your infrastructural problems are you can create jobs. It provides long-term growth for the city. There's also a multiplier effect. So for every dollar that you spend on infrastructure, you get back $1.44 that is spent by the government money. There was a senator out of New York. Her name is Kirsten Gillibrand, and she wrote a guide for her constituents to try and get federal grant money to pay for some of their infrastructure problems, because bonds aren't, you have to pay back the bonds. You don't want to raise taxes on your citizens. So trying to get maybe federal grant money is probably a better solution than taxation and bonds. It would take a lot of work to look into, but I think those are some areas that we should start in.
Thank you. Ms. Bois-Joly?
We do have a lot of major problems with the infrastructures. Some of it we can get through grants. I don't know if City Council has tried the private funding to see if we can tap into any of the private funds that's floating around this area, or in the state of Maine, I should say, that could help us. But we have to look at ways that we can help our city and get our city back to the way it should be. If it's to hire the people that are homeless to help them rebuild the tower, if they can hammer a nail, then why don't we hire them and help them and give them a job? I don't know what the answer will be. I've never been on council, so I really don't know what the budget is like or anything to say, well, we can move these dollars over here and we can put them over there to help with the problems.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Yes, thank you. One of the major infrastructure problems, as has been mentioned here, is our roads in the city of Biddeford. And I'm a huge fan of the bonding proposals, because the reason why is this allows every citizen that votes an opportunity to be involved in the budget process. And I've said that many times during the council budget process. And I think it's unfortunate that some of the bonding programs that we put together didn't pass. But the times are challenging. Folks pretty much vote with their wallets, and if times are tough, then bond packages won't pass. But it does give the people an opportunity to have an opportunity to be involved in the budget process and vote for structural changes, specifically the roads. And since I've been on the council, we have had success with some bonding proposals with our sewer bonds, and we've had 2 sewer bonds pass, and we've had a major road bond pass, which they're still finishing up some of the task on that. One of the proposals that happened before I was on the council was the bell tower that has been mentioned. I kind of struggle with that because it's been before the voters in various forms twice, and it's failed each time. And I think it's time that we look at varying opportunity to either repair the bell tower or see what we can do to modify it where the weight of the bell itself is not pressing down and destroying the structure. But that is part of our history. I think it needs to stay, but we need to look at some way we can improve that infrastructure. In some of the previous topics that you've talked with other sitting councilors and candidates, they brought up the sewer repairs and things like that. And I think it's important that we continue moving forward with our sewer improvements that we're doing, because a lot of the structures, including our roads that are out there, were built like in the turn of the century. And that has happened on Main Street specifically, and the Myrtle Street and Alfred Street over the past 5 to 6 years is a lot of those pipes are made of clay, and they've caved in, and I'm sure everybody has seen them, you know, because they've had to divert their traffic all around town because the roads shut down. And I think we should continue forward with the bonding proposals, you know, on varying structures, but definitely we need to push in either a special election or a June election for major repairs on our roads, and put forth I think it's around $10 million that we need, that we're behind schedule on and repairing our roads, but that's something I think needs to be put on the front burner. Thank you.
We are most definitely an aging city. The problems that we face are none different than the rest of Maine communities our age and our size. I know the best approach is a gradual, systematic effort to maintenance and upgrading. It's a tough balance, and it's one that I believe Public Works, for the most part, has got a good handle on. They do have a scheduled maintenance plan. The best measure of what needs to be done in a timely manner is the concerned voices of Biddeford citizens. You cannot ignore a majority of people that are voicing their concerns for both what's currently ongoing and what's to be anticipated.
Thank you. Mr. Cody, do you have any additional comments?
I'd just like to add to what Mr. Quattrone had said, and I think he had a great idea about maintaining stuff before it gets to the point where it's in complete disrepair. And I think we're right now at the point as a city where there's so many major infrastructure problems, we need to go out to a bond or do something to take care of the major issues we're facing right now on a short-term level. But in a long-term vision, we have to do exactly what Mr. Quattrone was saying, is that we need to make sure that when we're doing our budget process, that we're budgeting money to keep on top of things before, you know, it'd probably be a lot easier for us to, you know, spend $10,000 to repair a roof instead of waiting, you know, 5 or 6 years, and then we have to replace the whole thing, and it's $150,000. I mean, it's really important to look short-term with bonding, but long-term with making sure that when we budget, we keep these ideas in mind.
Thanks. Mr. Quattrone?
I really don't think I have anything to add further. I think it's all been said, so.
I agree with Mr. Quattrone. In fact, I like Mr. Cody's idea that we do have to, when we do the budgets, that we do keep the future in our side of things, what can happen, the what ifs and everything. And maybe bond is a way out to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Oh, thank you. You know, I said it before, I'm a big fan of bonding. You know, I hear from people all the time, you know, sitting on the council for this past 6 years, you can make 50% of the people happy, 50% of the people unhappy. But one thing that I love is bonding, because bonding, you know, like I said, it allows people the opportunity to be involved in the budgeting process. And back in 2008, when President Obama was elected for the first time, it was a great opportunity for the city to improve our roads, because they did the stimulus program back then. And they had to be shovel-ready projects. And the city of Biddeford had 4 shovel-ready I think it was 4 shovel-ready projects. And a lot of people remember Alfred Street and Main Street and Elm Street were all shut down at the same time, having major road construction. But the roads are a lot better now. So if we could do that throughout the entire city, I'm not talking about shutting down all the streets, but at the same time, but if we could do that throughout the city, it'd be a great thing to happen. Thank you.
Okay, Sam, our next question.
Next question will be on the parking garage. We'll start with Mr. Quattrone.
Sure.
The argument has been made that a parking garage will enhance the development of downtown businesses, and others argue that it's a waste of public funds that will only benefit a few private owners. Do you believe the parking garage is necessary? Do you support or oppose the building of a parking garage downtown?
I think there's a parking problem with the downtown. The parking garage that we've been reading about in the papers that would go on York Street does seem to be a little bit for the mill owners. I think there's a better location for parking, and I would say that would be on Washington Street, over by the old courthouse. I went for a walk the other day, and I stood right in that parking lot, and probably in a 2/10 of a mile radius, you can pretty much hit most of downtown Biddeford from there. So The proposed parking garage, I'm not in favor of. A parking garage, you know, maybe somewhere down the road. Maybe we just start with the parking lot. Maybe we buy the old courthouse, tear it down. From what I heard, it was going up for auction. Maybe we could get it for pennies on the dollar. That would give us probably a 300-foot by 85-foot parking area. That would be pretty substantial to start. I don't think public funds should be used. If it is going to go on York Street, I think the mill owners should foot the bill for that and not, you know, don't put it on our backs. And as far, do I think it's necessary? It's kind of like I kind of liken it to the Field of Dreams. You know, if you build it, they will come. I'm not quite sure if that's how it works. I would rather see businesses come into town and then put a parking garage. What if we put a parking garage in and then no one comes anyway because they say, well, you need so much more work done with infrastructure and everything else. So is it necessary? I'm still undecided on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Bozer-Ali?
Okay, the parking garage, the one on York Street, that's not for the people of Biddeford. The one, if you could put a parking garage in the central part of the city, maybe the Washington Avenue, but start out as a parking lot and go from there to see how it is accepted by the people of Biddeford, to see how much it is used, see how much we do need that extra parking space. I don't think if you put the parking garage on York Street that the people of Biddeford should pay for it. I've heard too many rumors about what was going on, and I think it would be a slap in the people's face for us to build a parking garage on York Street and the people not really use the parking garage. Most of our people in Biddeford are elderly. We have a lot of more handicapped people in the area, so we have to get something close for them where they can walk the distances to the stores that they have to walk to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. It's important to realize that a lot of the stuff that appeared in the press and the public had talked about the parking garage were not actually accurate. A lot of our discussions happen in executive session, so only the folks that were in executive session would know actually what the discussion was about. And I talked to our economic development director after our last meeting, not last meeting, but there was a meeting that transpired where there was a move to have a referendum on the parking garage information. And not to utilize any TIF money or taxpayer money at all to build this parking garage. And I made the motion to table that effort. And the reason why is because I felt like it was done in haste, because the information that's out there, I mean, I'd have to say we don't actually have the entire information. Councilor COTE and I, we've been involved in all the discussions, so the information just simply is not there. I fully support a parking garage, but I do not support a use of taxpayer money to build a parking garage. I mean, I think it'll benefit the downtown area. I think it'll benefit the city as a whole. But also, I have to put that plug in for a civic center downtown. I mean, if we have a civic center downtown, have the the Biddeford Pirates, if we have those there, I mean, we definitely need a parking garage because thousands of people will be here. And it's something that I think we need. I do believe in the Field of Dreams concept. I believe that was in a discussion earlier. And Bob brought it up also. You know, if you do build it, people will come. And the development will come. And, you know, a lot of the development that we've heard from businesses that were going to come to town didn't come because there was a lack of parking. You know, I don't really see the lack of parking right now, and that's really the reason I see it that way is because there's not this huge impact of housing developments down there right now. They're being developed, and there's not a huge impact of major businesses downtown. There's small mom and pop stores, but there's going to be soon. I mean, I have this vision, and I know this vision will come true because it just has to. That the businesses and the development will be there, so the garage is definitely going to be a need. And I don't see it as a waste of public funds because I won't support any use of taxpayer money. Thank you.
Mr. Cody?
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to cobble my answer together from what everyone else had pretty much said, but a lot of it really, to me, in terms of is a parking garage necessary? I think right now, if everything stays the same in the downtown area, I don't think we need a parking garage. However, there's a lot of undeveloped mill space that if it does get developed or there's steps in that direction, there's nowhere to put those cars. So, I feel that, a parking garage in the future will be necessary. I don't feel it is right now. And with the proposals that we've seen and talked about, like Bob has said, it's really, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse right now, even talking about this, because we're kind of a long ways off. The one thing that I've really stuck on is that any parking garage that we put in Biddeford is going to have a major transformative effect on the downtown, because we're not just going to build a garage and say, okay, that's it. We're going to meter the rest of downtown. So anyone that parks downtown, even on the street, is going to have to pay for it. And there's a bunch of other things that all need to happen. So it's going to be a major change. And a change of this magnitude, I really think should go to the voters. And Bob did table that referendum vote. And I agreed with him in principle on the fact that it's too early to start talking about a referendum because we don't even have a deal or anything set up where we could even vote on it. But I think once there's a proposal on the table that folks are seriously looking at and we're crunching the numbers on, I think we need to take it out to the voters, because it's such a major project. It's going to affect a ton of people, and it really needs to be the folks out there who have the say on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I fully support the idea of a parking garage, while I do not support any proposal that funds a parking garage through taxpayers' money. I believe that all towns of Biddeford size should have some form of municipal parking. The idea that it will support only a certain few, I believe is a bit misguided, in that there are many great businesses in the downtown area that could afford having more parking for more customers. And with the addition of a parking garage, it's not so much to suit the businesses that are there now, but to suit businesses that may be coming. And I know that with more parking, they would be appreciative of the efforts taken.
Was there any more comments on it, Mr. Quantrill?
Yeah, I just have one. So you guys are already in the council, so they have the benefit of the executive session and all that stuff. So, I'm just commenting on what we all read in the paper. But one thing that I was doing some research on meters on Main Street, and I came across a study, well, not a study, it was an actuality. It was, I believe, in San Bernardino, California, and basically the conclusion was the meters turned the Main Street into a ghost town, because what was happening was Mr. Smith would park his car, he'd throw 2 quarters into the meter, and he'd run into the store, and he'd only buy exactly what his need was. And the store owner would be like, no, stick around, browse, do your thing. And he says, well, no, I'm gonna expire, I'm gonna get a ticket, so I'm gonna get my pack of smokes, and I'm gonna get out of here. So I think we ought to be careful what we wish for with the meters, and we really need to examine that a little further, because we have a dollar store on Main Street. Are they going to pay $1 to park to go buy a dollar item? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So,
Ms. Beaujolais, any comments on this?
I have to agree with Mr. Cotrone. I remember when Biddeford did have the meters on the Main Street, and a lot of stores lost a lot of business when the stores started going out of the Biddeford area, because they still had to pay for a meter, but they could go to Riches, they could go to Walmart, not have to pay for parking. They could take their time and everything. That's why Biddeford lost a lot of business, because of the meters and that. If we want to be business friendly and we want the people to come into Biddeford, we want them to stay, we have to give them something in return. You're putting too much on the people when you ask, well, we're going to build a garage, but we're going to have parking meters too. You can have a set rate for your garage, and they can go shopping all day for 75 cents, $1.50, whatever it would equal out to, instead of making them rush and feel that Biddeford was just out for their money. The meters were taken out to get the people back onto Main Street. I remember when they did that, and Biddeford did get more businesses back at that time. But a lot of it was with the economy that some of the businesses did drop out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments, Mr. Mills?
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, the parking meters were part of the conceptual talk that's been going on, and that's one of the ideas. You know, there's also what I'd like to see. I mean, we could redesign the way Main Street's parking. Instead of the horizontal parking, we could put diagonal parking, and there'd be more room for more cars. I mean, I don't know, is there a need for parking meters downtown? Can the parking garage be self-sufficient? These are part of the discussions that we've been having. That's why it's a little too early, I think, as Councilor COTE had mentioned, that it's kind of putting the cart before the horse, because, you know, we're just beginning the talks. I think perhaps, and I brought up the Economic Development Director earlier. I had a discussion with him. Perhaps the discussions that he had out in the public, presenting the conceptual idea, maybe that wasn't beneficial, or maybe it was, I don't know, because the conceptual vision of this plan for the parking garage is nothing that we've approved. It's nothing that we're going forward with. Maybe some parts of it, I don't know. But it's at the very beginning stages. And it's unfortunate that a lot of politics got involved in it. It's just a move to, we're trying to enhance the growth of the city. And this is just in the beginning phases. But we're still having discussions about parking meters, and if that even happens, I don't know. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. COTE, any more additional comments?
Yeah, just one last quick thing is, the meters definitely aren't a popular topic of discussion, but the mayor has said that he's not going to approve any garage if it touches the mill rate.
Right.
So unless, we make friends with magicians or something that can make it appear for no cost, we're going to have to figure out a way to pay for it. So I know it's not a popular thing, but it's one thing that you'll probably hear again, and it'll be on the table, because the mayor's made a claim and said that he's not going to support the building of a garage that's going to increase the mill rate. So if enough people in the city decide they want a parking garage, we need to figure out how to pay for it. So, and I agree completely with what Mr. Quattrone had said about people aren't going to want to pay $1 to run in and buy a $1 item. Or, people are going to be in a rush, and that's just how it is. But we need to have some discussions on what's realistic in terms of financing, and how, if they decide that they want to go with the parking garage, how it's going to be paid for.
Thank you.
Our next question will be in regards to workforce housing. It has been indicated that there is a growing need for workforce housing in Biddeford. Do you support the development of workforce housing in Biddeford in general, and specifically in downtown Biddeford? We'll begin with Ms. JOLY.
Yes, there is a big need of low-income housing in Biddeford. I see it every day, and I know Mr. Mills sees it every day too, and especially in our ward. We do need the low-income housing for the homeless people that are walking our streets. This year, they said that for the children of school, the graduation age will reach 120 students that will be homeless. That's scary. I mean, we're getting people from Portland and other towns coming here, and they're sleeping on our streets. They have no shelter or anything. A person gets evicted from their apartment. They have no place to go. Oh, the shelter in Alfred. Well, let's see. You have to call and make an appointment, and you have to be there between 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you have to be out by 6 o'clock that night. They have very strict rules about that. We need to have something for these people. We're getting more and more homeless people. The children are homeless. I've even seen children as young as 9 years old being out on the streets with no place to go. And that's sad, that they're living at other people's home or spending the night there. But Biddeford has to do something about it. We have houses that need to be rehabilitated and could be used to house these people. We have the buildings on Main Street that could be made into shelters even. We have a business that might be going out that has even a kitchen facility that we could use to help with the homeless people. But we are getting more homeless people from other towns and from out of state, and Biddeford really needs to kind of look at this problem that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Yes, thanks. Since I've been on the council, we've approved 3 workforce developments, and one's been the Emory School development, and the others have been in the mills. There's the mill at Saco Falls, and the new one that's called the Loft at Saco Falls. And actually 4, excuse me. There's another one in North Dam Mill. And this workforce housing, it's pretty instrumental. I mean, it allows an opportunity for any existing structure to be rehabilitated, and it puts local people to work, building those places and putting that workforce back to work. And it has low to moderate rental ranges that allows people, the average folk that's making, you know, I don't know, 10 to 15, 20,000 a year to afford a nice place to live. And we've seen the pictures of the development that happened in the mills and happened in Emory School. If you haven't been over to Emory School, that's where the cable TV studio was going to be at one time. And we put that out on the market since I've been on the council, and it was bought by Avesta Housing, and they redeveloped the whole school. And it's beautiful in there. And it allows, there's a lot of elderly folks that live in there, and people that are on a fixed income, and they can afford to live in a nice place and call it their own home. And it's something I desperately see that we need throughout, not just downtown, but throughout the entire city. We have a lot of buildings that need to be rehabilitated, that need to be made affordable and livable for people to live, to reside in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cody?
Yeah, I think both Ms. Beaujolais and Councilor Mills have made really strong points. I think workforce housing is very important. The one thing that I struggle with workforce housing and the couple of deals that have come across the table to us is the idea of using tax incremented finance money or TIF funds for folks to build these workforce housing units. They've come to the city council with some pretty steep demands, in my opinion, pretty much saying that they don't want to pay full taxes on the property for a 20 to 30 year period. If it's a project that I really feel, well, you know, if it's a little incentive to help get someone over a threshold to be able to get a project going, that's fine. But we've had a project come through where they pretty much didn't want to pay taxes for the first 15 years after the development is done, and then pay 3% additional tax until year 30. And again, services in this town aren't free. So if we really want to take a lot of the burden off of existing taxpayers, it's hard for us to put in workforce housing and have the developers not pay tax money, because they use a lot of the services in Biddeford, and then we need that tax money to help pay and defray the cost of doing business for those different services. So I'm in favor of workforce housing. I'm in favor of using some TIF money sometimes just to help get over the edge if it's reasonable. But some of the proposals lately have kind of made me scratch my head and say, really? You really don't need to pay taxes for 20 years? Because again, the services cost money. So we need to figure out where that money is going to come from, and it's going to affect everybody else if people are getting sweetheart deals. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Controller?
Yeah, I totally agree with Councilor Cody here. I think that there's probably some demand for workforce housing, but I was just on the city's webpage today, and they were talking about, you know, how Biddeford rents are some of the cheapest in all of York County, between $500 and $800. That's still a considerable amount of money, but to hook up, you know, a few private business owners so they can put in 45 units and not pay any taxes or next to nothing taxes, that's just totally ridiculous to me. Why should we be getting a few people rich at everyone else? You know, why should the many sacrifice for the few? I don't really get that. So maybe some, but let's not get carried away and make the entire city, you know, low-income housing. Let's be realistic about this. Thanks.
I believe in the efforts to provide affordable housing to working class community families. Actually, being a former resident of the mill at Saco Falls, I can speak firsthand as to how great it is to have that ability. This is not a bad problem to have. This means that we're growing as a community, and there means an influx of new residents that want to reside within our city. So it's actually a good sign, and it's not so much of a concern of mine.
Thank you. Ms. Joly, would you like to respond?
Yes, we do need the low-income housing. It's a shame that the contractors want to have more of the cake and eat it, so to speak, than give to the city with a happy heart and say, this is my gift to the community. But you're saying people that are low income. I want to know what we're going to do about the people that have no income, the ones that have nothing. These are the people that my concern are. I see out at night. I see them down on Main Street. I see them by my house. They're living at friends' houses and that. They have no place to go. All they have is what is on their back. We need to have to think about those people too. And it's not just my age group or your age group, Brad. There are young children. There are the elderly. We need to set up shelters that these people can go in and stay maybe a day or two and get something to eat, get their bearings a little bit, and being able to say, okay, I can go out and conquer the world. I mean, we do need the low-income housing, but we also need the shelter for the homeless. You can go downtown anytime and see them. They're all along Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Yes, thanks. When I moved here, I had went through a divorce, and the term that Carol was talking about, we call it couch surfing. So I was a couch surfer at one time, and we have a very good general assistance office in town, and we have they do work with a group called the Main Way that has a services where they allow a family that's displaced due to a fire or what have you to reside there for a while rent-free. And we do budget for that every year. I sit on the Social Service Committee, which has a budget of $56,000 a year, which we'd like to see more, but we already had that discussion earlier. It's a challenging budget time. And you know, it's something that's desperately needed, and the workforce housing has been working in Biddeford. You know, I know a lot of the developers that are doing these projects, and they, by no way, and I know that was a general statement, are rich folks, but they are very compassionate, and they try to get the best deal for the people to reside in. And I'm proud of what's been accomplished in the city so far with workforce housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cody?
Yeah, to build upon what Ms. Beaujolais had mentioned about workforce housing, I'm not against workforce housing in any means. I'm just against the proposals we've seen that have come across the table would be, I feel, are more of a detriment to the city than a help. Because, again, we're putting in workforce housing, which is great, but if those units aren't paying taxes and we want to keep paying for services that are going to go up in cost, again, we need to figure out a balance. So, like Mr. Quattrone had mentioned, it's the many sacrificing for the few, and I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I think if workforce housing projects come along that are a little bit more shovel-ready and aren't dependent on as much of a, a huge handout to get built, then I'm all for it. But it's just making deals that, will get workforce housing in now, but over the course of 15 to 20 years, we look at that deal and we scratch our head and say, what were we thinking? in terms of, you know, why are we giving them, you know, tax-free or extremely low taxes for the next, you know, 10 or 15 years? I think that's something we'd have to figure out too. And so, you know, I'm for workforce housing by all means. It's just the proposals we've seen so far to put some of those projects in, I haven't been a very big fan of.
See, I don't see the projects in that, but what I'm saying is, let's do the workforce housing, but the contractors that are doing this, come on now, help your brother, you know?
Business doesn't always work that
no
way,
one
though,
gives me a
unfortunately.
break on my taxes or anything.
No, I know, but
Thank you. Mr. Cotrone?
I don't want to sound sympathetic to the guy that's down on his luck, but I know this is probably a whole other issue, but you know, when you have a panhandler over by Walmart and he's hanging out in front of the Wendy's and the Wendy's has a help wanted sign in the window, sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and you have to go in there and make $8 an hour until you can get on your feet, or maybe you need to pick up 2 jobs. Kids, you know, no one is more sympathetic to kids that, you know, have holes in their pants or no jacket. I mean, I got 2 little boys on my own, and I would hate to see that. So do we need a shelter? Maybe we need a shelter. Maybe we need to convert one of these old condemned places and put 150 cots in it just to help people out. But, you know, sometimes you need to help yourself. So I'm sure that that's coming across way wrong, but that's kind of how I think about these, you know, some of the people that don't want to help themselves. We've had some people on Alfred Street that have been panhandling. You know, one guy's a carpenter, and he could go to the place where I work, and they would take him in 2 seconds, but, you know, he's probably making more money panhandling, so, I mean, that's that, I guess.
Thank you.
Next question, Abby?
This next question regards the casino. Recently, a state panel on a vote of 10 to 8 recommended the expansion of gambling in Maine. Those in support of it believe it will expand jobs and increase funding for the city. Those opposed say that it takes advantage of low income, and the only people making a profit off of it will be the casino owners. Do you support revisiting the idea of having a casino in Biddeford? We're going to start with Mr. Mills.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to offend you, Professor. I was a staunch supporter of this the last time it came at the council, and I believe that it's going to create revenue and it's going to create jobs in the community. You know, it's pretty evident. Over 61% of the people in the city of Biddeford voted for it, and when it went to a statewide referendum, at the county level, it was 64% in favor, and the city actually increased to a 62 to 63% in favor. I think that as I look back, the previous proposal, a lot of people had opposition to it because they felt like it was rushed through the council level, it was rushed through the state level. And being involved in that process, I went to Augusta a few times, and I heard some of the previous discussion with some of the other candidates where they blamed the current mayor on why it didn't pass. Well, that's not accurate. You know, the governor, if you were in that room, in the Veterans and Affairs Committee room, if you were in that room, and I actually testified at that hearing, the Governor LePage sent his legal liaison there to say it doesn't matter what this committee does, the governor's going to veto it. If it goes to, when it goes to the State House, the governor's going to veto it. So it didn't matter what happened in Augusta, whether a state legislator, a state senator, or any committee, or even at the council or local level, the governor was going to veto it. It was going to go to a statewide referendum. Now, what happens when it goes to a statewide referendum? People, in my opinion, vote against things because it's not in their community, or they'll vote against it because it might affect their community. And I do believe now that we rush to this, and I fully support any effort. I've talked to Senator Trumbull recently and Mayor Cassavant about doing a slower process to see what we can do to benefit. I definitely wanted to see last time, and I want to see this time, us get the best benefit and the best bang for your buck, for using a cliche. The question also asked about that they're opposed to it because it takes advantage of low-income people. I really struggle with that because I buy lottery tickets every once in a while. I've been to Oxford casinos twice, and how long has it been in the state? 4 years now, 5 years, 6 years. Been to Bangor Slots, Bangor Casino now, been there twice. I mean, and I don't think I'm high income. I don't think I'm median income. I'm pretty close to low income, I think. I work 4 jobs, and my kids never see me, which, you know, they probably think that's a great thing, but I don't know. But anyway, you know, I really, what I struggled with when this came to the council last time, and you've heard from Councilor Richard Rames, how it takes advantage of low-income people. I don't see how, if there's a gambling facility, how we're in charge of their moral aspirations. I mean, when people are offered an opportunity to go into Walmart, is it our job as a city council or any elected body to say, don't go to Walmart because they're a big chain store, go to this mom and pop store? When it comes to the morality of a gambling issue, I think that stands with the individual person. And that's just like if a person has a substance abuse problem. I mean, is it, I got the bell going off. If it's up to, it's not up to us to control a person's morality. And if they want to go to a gambling facility, that's their right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cody?
Yeah, thank you.
You scared me over there.
I think Councilor Mills hit the nail right on the head in the fact that it really, at this point in the game, is not a local decision to even be made right now. The city of Biddeford, you know, the voters spoke up and said they wanted it. It got to the state level, it got shut down. So at this point, to me, it's DOA. Like anything else, my thought is I hesitate to say that, you know, I think a casino should definitely be here or definitely not be here. I think it's really relevant on the facts and what the terms of the agreement would be. You know, what kind of a benefit is it going to have for the city? How much money is it going to bring in? How much is going to come to us versus the state, and how much is going to stay with the casino? I think there's so many questions that need to be asked that it's kind of premature to say whether or not I'd be in favor of it without having all the facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quattrone?
I would be in favor of revisiting it. I would be in favor because it would create jobs. I believe last year the Oxford Casino paid something like $4.5 million to the state of Maine in taxes. So if we could get a casino to come to Biddeford, residents of Biddeford, they're going to go to a casino whether it's in Biddeford or in Oxford, so why not keep the money right in our downtown or in our local you know, establishments. So I just kind of lost my train of thought there. So I would want to revisit it, get the jobs in Biddeford, get the gamblers to come to Biddeford. We might be a better destination than, say, Oxford, because we'll be getting people from, say, Portsmouth who can choose to go to Connecticut or to Biddeford, Maine. So Biddeford's a little bit shorter of a drive. They come up here. Maybe we start getting bus tours up here, dumping off, you know, 50, 60 gamblers at a time. So let's keep the money here. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Boisjoli?
I agree. We do need the Racino or casino here in Biddeford. People voted for it. Let's bring it back. But before we do, let's investigate what the fine line is. Who gets what percentage of everything? But it would help Biddeford out financially. It would bring business into Biddeford, more commerce and everything. I think going with the casino for Biddeford would be a good thing, but we have to look at the fine line before we sign on that dotted line. We really have to make sure that it is a profit for the people for Biddeford too. Thank you.
Thank you.
While I personally do not believe that the casino is our best option to attack our economic base, I'm open to listening to any proposals that may benefit the people of Biddeford. It's a delicate subject that I believe I need to see a proposal for in order to weigh the pros and cons. Without seeing any actual proposal, I can only say that my personal beliefs do not support the effort of a casino. But I am open to listening, and if so be, I may be open to approving.
Mr. Mills, do you have any additional?
Yeah, just a little follow-up. I think what was interesting the most when we talked about this issue last time, back in 2010 when it went before the voters again, 2012 when it went before the statewide voters, the most interesting aspect, and people will debate me this all day long, was Bangor slots, when it was Bangor slots. They contributed $5 million to the city of Bangor. And that $5 million was split up between the three most impacting budget departments, and that's the school department, the fire department, and the police department. And $5 million bucks, I mean, what would we do with $5 million bucks? I mean, we certainly would go buy a bunch of cars or anything like that, but I mean, that's pretty impacting. I mean, sure, it's going to affect people's lives, and it can be positive and it can be negative. It's how you look at it. And, you know, I think it's something we definitely need to revisit. I look forward to having that discussion. I've enjoyed the discussions that I've had since the measure failed, because there's some different ways that we can look at this. So thanks again for allowing me to speak about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have one more point to add, is that there's only so much gambling money that's out there as well. And if you read the papers, we have one in Bangor, we have one in Oxford. They're talking about putting one in Boston, so we're not really going to probably be getting that Boston traffic that people think we're going to get. Yeah, well, they're talking about putting one in Suffolk Downs in the Boston area, and another one in Western Mass as well. There are going to be folks who continue to go down to Connecticut as well, depending on the size of what the proposal will be. So again, I think all of these facts need to be collected and analyzed and look at the data, because it's nice to say that, yeah, we'll get $5 million like Bangor, but if there's a bunch of casinos in the area, maybe we'll only get $2 million. And based on how much we owe or what the deal is or what the breakdown of the cuts would be in terms of who gets what, we may not be getting as big a piece of the pie as we think. So again, I think really, for me, my opinion on this is really going to be tied to what kind of deal is offered in the facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quattrone.
Just one point, and it's kind of just branching off what Bob said. You know, who's to say that a casino wants to come into Biddeford and we say, well, you know, you really want to come here. We got this clock tower that's crumbling down. Why don't you throw some work into that? Maybe we take care of some of our little infrastructure problems. You know, they're going to make money hand over fist. So say, hey, this thing needs an overhaul. It's going to cost, I mean, I'm not sure what something like that would cost. Let's just call it $1 million. Say, you're going to make $10 million this year. Give us $1 million. Take care of the issue. So definitely worth looking into.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really think that we need to sit down and look at what's going to be on the table, what the bargaining chips are going to be, so to speak. We can, if Biddeford plays its chips right, we can make it into a, who knows, maybe bigger than the Civic Center. We could even have a big entertainment venue. And besides thinking about Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and that, we have a lot of Canadians that come down, and they love to spend the money. And we have a lot of people who have ties, strong ties, to the Canadians. And I mean, most of our people, they were from Canada, and they still have family there. And the Canadians like to spend. It's no offense to the Canadians. I'm from German descent, and I love to spend too when I have the money. So I want to apologize if I offended any Canadian. I did not mean to do that. Thank you.
You can't have a discussion about this without the cliches of chips and all this. You know, we're talking about casinos, we're talking about chips and the big buck and all this other stuff. That's why it's chuckling to me. You know,
All right, we'll continue on. The next question deals with the airport. Do you believe the airport should be closed, remain as it is, or expanded? If you choose to close, then what will be done with the space? If you choose to expand, how should it be expanded? We'll start with Mr. COTE on this question.
I'm probably the best person to start with this, because this is it's right in Ward 3. It's a pretty hot issue. Most of the folks that I've talked to in Ward 3 want the airport to stay the way it is. They're not looking to shut it down. They definitely don't want it expanded. They want it to handle the same type of traffic it does now, which is Cessnas, light aircraft, things of that nature. We had a report that came out from the Airport Super Committee that told us how much it would cost to close down the airport. Depending on what number you want to stake your claim on, it's 7 million if we don't really do anything with the land, and once the land is sold, it would be somewhere around 2.2, I believe. So again, I've been preaching the entire time we hear that money's tight, so we definitely don't have $2.2 million to look at closing the airport. So to me, that's not even an option. However, before we just randomly start throwing money at the airport, we need questions to be answered. We need basic usage information. The mayor has mentioned that it is going to be an economic driver for our town. Prove it. Show me numbers or projections that show that you think that this airport is going to be a moneymaker for the city. Show me how many people use it. Show me what businesses use it, how often they use it. If a business uses it once a year, is it worth sinking a bunch of money in? I mean, we've been crying poverty this entire debate so far, saying about how bad the roads are and the bell tower, the clock tower is going to fall on our heads and all this stuff. Do I just want to start throwing money at the airport without really looking at the data and looking at doing an analysis of the numbers to make sure that it makes sense, that that's the best use of our tax money? I don't feel that way at all. I think the roads are in tough shape, and there's a lot of other needs that the city has. So until I get some data that proves to me that putting the money into the airport is a good investment, that it's going to be a good return on investment, I can't see spending that money right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think it should be closed because it's going to cost too much money. I think it should stay as is for now. Definitely not expanded because of the proximity of houses and schools and businesses. We don't need 747s flying over our schools, and just in case something awful happens, heaven forbid. What I would be in favor of also is, I was reading about some other municipal airports around the country, and there was one in Georgia. Because airports are so expensive to maintain and all of that stuff, they took a lot of their surrounding acreage and they planted blueberry patches. And I think maybe we need to, look into alternative revenue sources. So we have the airport, but then we have all this space around it. What else can we do with all of that to make some more money? So keep it the way it is and look to make it more profitable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Beaujolais?
I think we should just leave it the way it is. We shouldn't close it. If we close it, we're going to lose revenue on it. It's going to be one of our lifelines for our future, especially if we can get the casino down here. But right now, I would just keep it the way it is, and as Mr. Quattrone suggested, maybe seeing what we can do to develop the acreage that we have, that we can make some money off of that to help the city out. Closing it, I don't see how it would help Biddeford at all. I think it will be one of our lifelines to make us grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Yes, well, Councilor Cody and I disagree a little bit on this, not too much. But I firmly believe that a lot of the information, I always say information at the council meetings that some folks are asking for, I supported strongly the recreation of the Airport Commission, where I think a lot of that information can be gathered and presented to the council in a structured form. And as far as closing the airport, I don't see that as happening, since in 2006, there was a vote in the city of Biddeford about, do you want to close the airport or not? And the figure on it was around $3 million at that time. Granted, the economy was different, and it was 81% in favor of keeping it open. Now, you can look at that in two different ways, because some people say that the council's vote on the Merck issue, when the council voted against, when the citizens voted one way back in 2004, that meant that they wanted to keep Merck open. Well, it was different. I don't like to use the term apples to oranges, but it's different times and different places and different things, and it just doesn't work. I mean, the people want to have the airport open. The way I see it, they want to keep it open. They want it to. I haven't seen a massive influx of people that want to see it expanded, but there has been a discussion a little bit on the sidelines about making it a regional hub, and that's combining services with Kennebunkport, Kennebunk, Arundel, Saco. That's kind of the beginning phases that we've been at. But it's unfortunate for the last 6 years, it's kind of been stagnant. I've been in the minority on the council on how we can go forward with at least making the safety repairs and bringing the airport up to date. And it just hasn't gone anywhere, and it's just been sitting to the side. And you know, I saw a quote in the paper that the airport, some of the members of I don't want to say make this sound bad, but some of the members of the council and the community want to strangle it, where it just dies off. Well, I really see it as a vital impact to our community. I mean, because we have the hospital, we have the university, we have businesses that are here in town, and then we have businesses that are going to be coming in town, and the casino or the casino, whatever comes, and there's going to be people flying in and utilizing this airport. You know, perhaps the discussion needs to be around making it a regional hub, as the mayor had brought up and some of the subcommittee members had brought up. And, you know, I really see that that's going to be a beneficial aspect. Early on in my career on the council, I opposed some funding for the airport, and that was due to the fact that there was a sewer repair need that needed to be done. And the figure, when I first got on the council, was $300,000. Well, when I got on the council, it went up to $1 million. Like, how does 300,000 go to 1 million? Well, gradually we got that under control, where it was a DEP, a Department of Energy, Environmental Protection. That always startles me there. But we got that under control, but I really think that we need to make our airport safe. We need to see what we can do about doing a regional approach, and see what we can do to bring more opportunities for citizens to visit our city and enhance our business. Thank you.
I believe closing the airport is a step in the wrong direction. Again, I see the arguments made on either side, but I would have to make a decision based on the proper information. I would like to see a reinstitution of an airport advocacy council consisting of representation from all wards. I believe that the airport can be an asset to our city. It's enough to propose closing something if a vocal minority of people do not see the benefit in it. More so, I'd rather develop ideas to enhance those benefits. If it so means that we expand, then I may be in favor, but I'm certainly not in favor of closing the airport.
Mr. COTE, any additional comments?
I'm going to bring, it's like point counterpoint over here.
Absolutely.
For me, I'm going to touch upon two of the items that you discussed and just kind of offer the other side of the equation. The one about it being a regional hub, that is a great idea in theory. However, it would be nice to, if it's going to be a regional hub, in my opinion, it should be supported regionally. Meaning that
Absolutely.
If other towns in the area are going to use it all the time, it'd be nice to see some sort of funding come from some of these other towns that are going to be using it consistently, so we can pay for the upkeep.
Sure.
One other thing that I guess that I just want to bring up as well is in referencing to strangling the airport. I guess for me, I'm an auditor, so I come from a background of when someone says something, I need proof to back it up. So if I were to theoretically say, you know, if I had my own Cadillac Escalade, that'd make me way more productive on the city council. Okay, I could say that, right? But you'd probably be like, you need to prove that. How is me giving you a company car or something really expensive going to help make you more productive on the council?
Or tablet.
Yeah, or tablets. Again, it's nice to say we want to support the airport, and again, if they can come up with information to say this is how it's being used, this is what we're projecting for income, this is what we're looking at regarding who's using it, how often they're using it. They come at us with some data that we can use to analyze and make decisions. I'm all for supporting the airport if it makes sense. It's just they can't provide any information, which makes me nervous. Again, if we're going to throw money at something, let's throw it at the roads. Let's throw it at something that we have proof that we know is in trouble, it's crumbling. I'd rather see hard facts instead of just willy-nilly throwing money at something. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Contar, any other
I
comments?
agree with what he said, and that's where I'm at. So.
Certainly. Ms. Beaujolais?
I almost agree with the councilman. They're a step ahead of us with the information. You know, if we do make it a hub, We really have to sit down with the cities and get user fees and everything. But I still think we should keep the airport the way it is. You know, it's something to think about. Because as Mr. Mills and I said before, the airport is going to be one of our lifelines for the future. Thank you.
And Mr. Mills, any other additional comments?
No, I don't think I have any extra comments. I spoke a lot, and sometimes people think I talk too much, so I'll be quiet. Very, very good conversation on this.
Thank you, guys.
Our last question will be regarding UNE. We'll start with Mr. Cotrone. UNE is an increasingly important economic and social contributor to Biddeford. What do you believe could be done to better integrate UNE in the city of Biddeford?
Yeah, we are lucky to have UNE right here in Biddeford. I'm not sure of the total, let's say 10,000 students, and they're all spending money here, you know, 9 months out of the year, and then if they're here for the summer as well. I would like to see them maybe leave campus more, head into downtown. I'm sure you guys frequent all the restaurants downtown. We've got great restaurants down there. You've got Walmart, you've got, well, you probably don't go to Home Depot too much, living in a dorm room, but.
Let's put a hole in the wall.
Yes. Yeah, I know, right? So, you know, I'm not sure exactly what could be done that you guys aren't already doing. You know, you're spending your money or your parents' money, you know, here in downtown. So, you know, keep it up, and, you know, we're thankful to have you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Boljoli?
UNE has helped Biddeford a lot, and it will continue to help Biddeford. I like to see them be more interactive in the sports venue. You guys got a great field. You know, Biddeford's, well, it's a good field. It's getting old. You know, it'd be nice where we could have like some championship game out on the UNE field. But UNE, I think, should come to Biddeford more, be part of the community. I worked with UNE students when I worked out in the nursing homes out on the Pool Road. I have no complaints about UNE. But we need to get closer together. And I don't know if it's the students and just the people have like a block party and just get together and get to know each other, or what the situation will be. It should be something that's on the board that Biddeford looks at. We have a good potential to work as a team together to help bring more to UNE and more to Biddeford. I would like to see some of the classes maybe down in Biddeford, in the mills, or you know, one of the schools or something. It's an endless possibility for Biddeford. Maybe you can work with one of the nursing homes again in Biddeford and have a clinic supervised by the hospital for the low-income people. A bigger clinic than what we have right now, because we do have the free clinic. And I do know UNE students do volunteer to work there, in which I commend these people in doing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Yes, thanks. You know, I really think UNE's been an increasing, as the question states, it's been a contributor to the city. The city manager right now has a intern. It's the second or third time, you remember, that we've had an intern from UNE that's been mirroring in each department, you know, helping out and learning aspects of city government. For a number of years, I believe it was 3 or 4, I'm sure anybody watching will correct me, I was on the board with the Heart of Biddeford, and we have a member from UNE, a staff member from UNE that was involved in the promotions committee and getting a lot of events going on with UNE students. And it was pretty instrumental, I think, with getting the student body down. And I mean, I'm on the transit committee now, which is Saco, Biddeford, Scarborough, and Old Orchard Beach, and it operates the bus service that goes from UNE downtown and throughout the other communities. And we pick up, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a day there at the university and drop students off downtown. So the kids are going, I say kids because, you know, you guys are, you know, at least 20 years younger than me. But young people, the young folks are actually coming down to the restaurants and coming to the stores down there. And you know, what can we do to help increase that? I think we can enhance with a more like mock government, student government. This is something we did when I was a kid, which was a long time ago. I just turned 48, by the way. And when I was a kid in high school, we had mock city governments, mock school committees, and it was kind of like if anybody's pre-law here, you have mock trial court at the university. And we would have, when I was in high school, we would come in and act as the city council and actually make decisions. You know, we couldn't vote and approve on monetary things, but I tried to do that with the former mayor, and I thought we as city councilors could switch places with the students. Well, it didn't go too well with the high school and the former mayor, because the former mayor didn't want to wear bobby socks or whatever she wore back in high school, and I think it'd be very effective with with you folks and your classes to allow UNE students to come in and sit in the 10 official spots that we have as city council and mayor, and maybe as an acting city attorney and city manager, and we go and sit in your classes and try to pass some of your tests. Brad might pass, but you know, I might have a struggle because I was a political science major. No offense. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cody?
Yeah, I think, it goes both ways. I think with UNE being able to help Biddeford, I think a lot of that comes to the pilot program that's been discussed. I know that that's been renegotiated, and it hasn't always been on top of things in terms of that, but UNE uses city services, so it's very helpful, again, not to do a full tax rate, but to work out a program where UNE can kind of throw some money in the pot and help with some of those services. But with that responsibility, Biddeford needs to help UNE, and one way that we could do that we're not currently doing, would be to set up some sort of a committee or a group that meets, you know, monthly or bi-monthly and say, okay, you know, UNE, what are your issues? What issues do you have? Or what ways would you like to be integrated better with the community? And we really need to have, again, UNE is a major part of the city. We need to find a better way to listen to their concerns and have some sort of forum to be able to do that, to make sure that we're really helping UNE like they'd be helping us in the pilot program.
Thank you.
I value what the university means to Biddeford. I could speak firsthand, actually going to a school that's similar to UNE, Roger Williams in Bristol, Rhode Island, the benefit of having a well-respected institution with a beautiful campus. We attract many people from outside the Biddeford area, the Maine area, the New England area. They come far and wide to see our beautiful city, and I appreciate that. I do also know the great break that the University of New England receives from Biddeford in terms of proposed fees for city services. Culturally, I believe having an institution such as UNE in Biddeford is fantastic. It grows a well thought out community, one that's concerned with the arts, and it's great to see the budding, just artistic community that's blossomed here in Biddeford, and I think that's in great thanks to what UNE has done.
I guess, you know, I just read the question over again and listened to these guys. So I understand how UNE's helping Biddeford. You know, you guys spend your money in town, you get shuttled down. But what I was going over is how Biddeford could help you guys at UNE. You guys are getting a top-notch education in Biddeford, but I'm going to guess that a majority of you guys go back to your home state. It would be fantastic if we could make some incentive for you guys to stay in southern Maine, or, you know, I know you guys are, I know it's primarily what, a medical school, so, you know, keep you guys at Southern Maine Medical Center or Maine Med or Goodall or anything like that. So I don't know what the answer is, but I'm sure there's one out there that Biddeford could say, okay, look, you know, we'll hook you up with some of this housing. You guys stay here, work in town, you know, and you get 6 months at half rate for, I'm not sure, I'm just kind of mulling it over in my head, but we need to try to keep you guys right in the local area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Boljoli?
It's, as I said, it's something that both UNE and Biddeford has to sit down and lock heads to come to agreement of what you need, what we need from you, and for us to work as a team to make it vet together. Could we offer you anything to keep you here? What could you offer us in return to us to support your university? I think the pilot program, as Mr. COTE says, sounds like a good deal. Who knows what will happen? I know people do welcome the students of UNE to help with the income and the businesses that they have and in their homes and that. There's such a wide venue that UNE could help Biddeford more. We could be here all night talking about it. Other things that pop into my mind that UNE could help us with. But that's a different time. But I think that we just need to sit down and just put the cards on the table and discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
Yes, it was a very interesting concept that Mr. Quattrone brought up. The AmeriCorps Vista program, actually, they have a program where for teachers and medical doctors that they'll recruit you to go to a low-income community and live there, and they'll pay your moving expenses, and I believe they pay off your tuition, I mean your student loans at the end. I'm looking for you for correction.
They pay a small salary, 15, 17, but then they'll pay 4,000 to 5,000 a year for each year you serve off of your loans, plus your loans get frozen for the period of time that you're in the VISTA program.
Yeah, that's a tremendous program. I was at Vista several years ago, and I heard about that, but you know, I wasn't in the teaching or medical field, and I think that's something that, you know, Bob had brought up that could be looked into as, you know, being a social contributor, I think. And you know, as Brad had brought up about the pilot program, that is something that we've been negotiating for a number of years, and you know, it's probably not where it needs to be at, but you know, I don't see it as a inhibitor as to being increased involvement with UNE. But you know, thanks for you know, like I said before, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we talk too much, so.
All right, that brings us to our closing statements. You have 3 minutes each to discuss any issue you would like. Ms. Boljoli, would you please begin?
I'd like to run for council to help be on the team to have Biddeford rise above the falls, to shine. We can make Biddeford one of the best New England towns on the map. I hear we're going to have a good future, but we have to listen and not close our ears to certain people or certain ideas. We got to also think about outside the box of what the dreams are and what we're going to have for our children, what we can leave for them. Biddeford's got a beautiful history. We can carry that history into the future. And I want to be part of the future of Biddeford. Thank you.
Mr. Mills?
Yes, thank you. Thanks again for allowing me to be here. I would really appreciate folks to vote for me and for Ward 5 Councilor to return me for another term. It would be my 4th term. I've really enjoyed being on the council. I feel like I'm a very strong voice for our ward, for the community, and as Brad would say, I don't hold my tongue, right? I am very vocal about things that I'm passionate about things that my constituents are compassionate about. I will continue to do the same thing. You know, I'll promise to be a continuing force to champion for a tax reduction. Maybe we'll see it soon. I hope I'll obtain some more supporters on the council. It has been difficult. You know, and I have maintained constant communication with my constituents over the years, and you know, I'll continue to do that. I really appreciate the opportunity to express my opinions about some of the questions that were asked by the student body, some of the questions that have been asked by the folks in the community. And I will continue to be a strong force in the city of Biddeford, regardless of what happens in the election. But I really hope that you put me back for a 4th term. Thank you.
Mr. Cody.
Yeah, I wanted to also say thank you to UNE, Dr. McReynolds, and for the students here for the questions. It's great to be able to, even though I'm running unopposed, to be able to get out there and kind of just, say my feelings and thoughts and stuff from what I've heard in my constituents from Ward 3. Really, the key thing again is I've worked hard the last 2 years to really do right by Ward 3 and make decisions that are in its best interest. And I'm hoping to get another 2 years to be able to continue to work hard and really work on trying to help make Biddeford a better place to live for everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Cotrone.
Thanks for doing this. It means a lot for us candidates to get out, especially the ones that, we're not quite in the, the council but I think I'm the best candidate out of my ward. I'm really in tune with my, my neighbors. I grew up in Ward 4. I still live in Ward 4. I walked around town and in my neighborhood, and they said, "You're Bobby Cotrone. You used to play touch football in front of my house." 30 years later. So, you don't know somebody until you walk a mile in their shoes. And now that I'm an adult with a family, I've walked that mile in my neighbor's shoes when they open their tax bill and they're like, "Wow, how am I going to do this?" I know exactly what they're talking about. I feel what they feel. So I also want to implement in my ward maybe some creative ideas. I mean, we live in the technology age now with social media, and we really have a way to reach out to everybody. So I want to make Ward 4 residents really give them a hands-on approach to local government. So I've got some ideas going around in my head for that. And on November 5th, whether you vote for me or not, just go out and vote. That's all that really matters, is everyone gets to say. So thanks again.
My name is Dominic DeChambeau. I've grown up in Biddeford my whole life, and Biddeford Proud really represents who I am and what I mean to do here. I've had the ability to grow up in what I believe is the best community in Maine. I frequent our local businesses. I know everybody on the corner, and I enjoy interacting. I attend the local athletic games. I support Biddeford schools. It's just a wonderful feeling to have the ability to represent Biddeford in Ward 4. And I look forward to working together with other like-minded, well-intentioned people to progress. We're a city in transition, and I think we're on the right path, and I want to be part of that. And I hope you would too. And if you vote for me, know that these next 2 years are going to be fun and interesting and exciting for me, and I will listen to all of your ideas. Know that I'm not coming in with a preconceived agenda of what it is I want to do and what I don't want to do. What I don't want to do is be narrow-minded, be closed-minded. I enjoy listening, I like analyzing, and I promise to make all the best decisions in your best interests. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the candidates for coming tonight with your ideas and your time. We really appreciate it. Students, we thank you for the questions and your time as well, and it's great to get the community and university together, and I hope we'll do this again. Otherwise, good luck to all of you in the election, and again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.